Hello class, this is section 5.1 and we are going to discuss initial value problems for these matrix equations. So remember that our setting is that we have this equation where P is an n by n matrix and x arrows are going to be n vectors with n elements in them. And we discussed in a previous video that we get a general solution of this form. We have n linearly independent solutions, and x is of the form c1x1 plus c2x2 cnxn. So recall that all these vectors are n vectors. They're vectors of n elements. The first thing we want to do is to write this solution in terms of a matrix as well. So we can let xt be an n by n matrix, and let this matrix be of this form. The first column is going to be x1, the second column is going to be the vector x2, and so on, and the last column is going to be a vector xn. This is an n by n matrix because all the vectors have n elements, so there are going to be n rows, and we have n of the vectors, so they're going to be n columns. And it is going to be rather straightforward to see that this is going to just be equal to xt times the vector c1, c2, cn. So this is precisely equal to this solution. We're just rewriting the general solution in terms of a matrix. And setting c as this vector of constants, we often just write that our solution is of the form xt times a c vector. So let's now think about initial conditions and what initial conditions will look like. And they are typically going to look like this. So we have, in this equation, we started with we have to solve for a vector x arrow. So x arrow is going to have an initial condition of the form b1 to bn. So this is just the value of x to start with. So it doesn't have to be at 0, it could be also the time a. But anyway, at a certain initial value, we have the coefficients of the vector x arrow. So another way to think about this is that we can just write down, remember that x is equal to matrix x times c. Using this equation, we can just rewrite this in the form, using this equation. Instead, we can write this matrix times a times c bar equals b1 bn. This is another way to solve our matrix equation. And remember that for solving initial value problems, we need to figure out what the constants c1, c2, and cn are. So our goal in our initial value problem, as it is always, is to solve for c. Figure out what the constants c1, c2, c3, cn are.